place that light is afraid to touch, where the monsters beneath your bed and hiding behind your fear refuse to travel. Do you dare? Is your mind capable of the sights you see? Is your body prepared for the sounds you will hear? Is your spirit up to the challenge of what you soon may feel? If so, have a seat with the seductress of the dark, Sarah Terror, the Sultan of Sadism, Chunky Larry, and the Clown Prince of Fear, Arlie Grind. This is the Ghoul Kids Table.
Greetings, fellow insomniacs, and welcome to the table. It is another episode of the Ghoul Kids Table on every platform that you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. I am your host. My name is Chunky Larry, and we are full fucking force for the last episode of the year. I, again, am Chunky Larry, but I want to introduce somebody that makes my heart flutter, who sends my belly in a twirl and gets it all full of the butterflies. The clown that loves to get down. Grindy the clown himself, Mr. Arlie Grind. How you doing?
Honk, honk, motherfuckers. End of the year episode. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
This is the last one of the year, and we're going to go with one of the more problematic films of the fucking year. This is a movie that has all of the debates.
You say problematic, but there was Texas Chainsaw Massacre released in February. So.
I fucking love Texas. We'll get into that at some point. But also sitting at the table, seemed to be on assignment whenever I was on the show, but managed to be on the show when I was on assignment. The lovely and vivacious and gorgeous Miss Tragic Raw, Sarah the Terror. How you doing, Sarah?
Ooh, Sarah, if you're nasty. How are you guys doing?
Miss Raw, if you're nasty.
The raw configuration.
Ooh. I miss him.
We are spicy today. We are spicy.
We haven't been full force in a few, so it's like
True story.
It hasn't been since Glorious. So that means the entire month...
I wasn't there for Glorious.
It was just me and you.
It was Barbarian was the last one.
Yes.
Yeah.
God damn.
Adulting sucks.
Yeah.
Adulting got in the way. Assignments got in the way.
Too.
Yeah.
It was all these stupid assignments. Stupid assignments.
I did some cool shit when I was on assignment.
I tried to do some cool shit when I was on assignment, but no.
Yeah.
I cleaned butt cameras while I was on assignment, so I'm glad you guys had cool time.
You have to one up everybody with your shit, don't you?
I interviewed Dante and Randall. Is that not as cool as cleaning butt cameras? Okay, Chunky Larry here with Jeff Anderson from Clerks 2, Clerks 3, and Now You Know. If you haven't seen Now You Know, go out of your way to watch that one.
I can verify he is chunky.
Yes, he can. So, I want to talk to you about the character Randall and the difference of the character each time that you return to the character. Is that something that you needed for you as an actor when returning to... I know, I'm asking you all of that with this on.
Who the fuck are you, James Lipton? You think I'm an actual actor? I don't know, but I just show up and spit out my fucking lines.
Fair enough. Anything you want to say about Clerks 3 while I have you?
What do I want to say about Clerks 3? Everybody thinks, people are throwing shit at me. Everybody thinks Clerks 3 is the last movie, and it is not. I, who always doesn't want to do the movies, have already agreed to doing Clerks 4. Clerks 3 just came out. We're talking Clerks 4. I'll give you the premise. Randall buries Dante in the pet cemetery. and he comes back.
Okay, Brian, you gotta come over here now since you threw it at him. Come over here. We got Brian O'Halloran here too.
Who's this? Who am I talking
This
to?
is the
Hi.
Ghoul Kids table.
Hello,
How you doing?
Ghoul Kids table.
Yes.
What the hell, man? Speaking of ghouls, that's what I am now. I'm a ghoul. I'm coming after you.
I'm just saying, like, you guys get the cool assignments. I'm sitting here going, well, this person gets lots of fiber.
Ooh, you've been eating corn, ain't you? Ooh, corn. It's corn.
It's corn.
I assure the audience, none of us have been drinking, but
Yeah, it's way too early for
Yeah.
that. I'm just still drunk from last night. That's what that is. But before we get into, ooh, look at this fancy boy.
what you got there, bud?
It came in, and I'm just going to use this moment to promote this wonderful 90 proof whiskey that I got from Florida.
90 proof, fuck.
Ooh, it's rough, but it's so smooth at the same time. This is the smoothest high proof whiskey I've ever had. It's Von Payne Black. You can order it online. This is not a paid sponsorship yet. But so when you pour it, it comes out of the gargoyle's mouth.
I fucking love that so
Fuck
much.
yes.
But I've got some drinks lined up for all of us to try on Top Shelf Hill.
Yes.
Top Shelf Horror Hell.
But before we get into the show proper and like reviewing the movie that we're going to be covering this week on the show, we're going to be talking about the 2022 film Smile. But this being the last episode of the year, I felt like this was a good place for us to kind of reflect on this year, 2022, in terms of horror films, and just kind of talk about some of our favorite moments of 2022 in terms of horror. This year serves as the year that this was our origin story for the Ghoul Kids table, and it was also, in my opinion, one of the best years in horror in a long fucking time. And there were hits, there were misses. There was Jamie Lee Curtis. there was Korn. There was all kinds of shit. There was skull fucking. It was an amazing year. There was Kid Cudi's dick. Like everything that you could want in a horror year was there, and it was there for us in a weird and interesting way. So I'm gonna go around the table, and I want each person to just say their favorite movie of 2022 and their least favorite movie of 2022. So let's start with Arlie. What was your favorite movie of 2022?
Oh, this is hard. I'm gonna go with Terrifier 2. And yes, I'm biased for clowns, but I really thought this sequel did so much more than the original one did, and kind of gave everyone what we were hoping for in Terrifier 1. I mean, Terrifier 1 wasn't a disappointment at all, but Terrifier 2, that brought it in a lot of like mashed potatoes, mashed potatoes.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that was my favorite. Oh, my least favorite this year. Okay. All right. Prepare the comment section. Halloween Ends. And it wasn't about my expectations. It was just I thought it did not stand up to what we have had in the past. From a technical standpoint, it's a well done movie. Story is it's a little Swiss cheese. It's a little Swiss cheese. There's some holes in there, and I can only suspend my disbelief for so long. If you are gonna freak out that a guy might get out of a maximum security prison and live as a recluse. But now that he's disappeared into the wild, and you're like, oh, you know what? Live my life.
Mhm.
No, I'm sorry. That's kind of a
Mhm.
that's that that's a little stretch. That's hard for me to suspend my disbelief. And I
It's
like
very-
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So like
It's very Caroline Williams. It's very much a stretch.
it's a stretch. It's a stretch.
And Sarah, what about you?
So this was an interesting year for me because, and I had mentioned this previously on the Tickum Talks, but it might have been a minute since anybody remembers it. But I was stuck in the same viewing habits for the longest time, and I kind of let a lot of new horror slide by me.
Mhm.
And thankfully, since our origin story has begun, I've got to watch and seek out more, just more in general. For those who don't know, I have a 15-year-old boy. So for the last 10 plus years, it's been Marvel, Star Wars's, which I'm not complaining, but when that takes up a ton of your time, you kind of miss out on a few things. So this year was a lot of fun for me to get back, jump headfirst right back into horror, because horror is my love. I'm gonna say my favorite movie of the year was just a shocker of a movie to me because of how weird and beautiful it was, but it was glorious. I absolutely loved that movie. I thought it was so much fun, and it was such a surprise watching it. And now I have to seek out and find all cosmic horror, and that I feel like I am now a huge fan of that. I need to see all of it. I need to know all of it.
I would recommend Color Out of Space, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage movie.
That's on a list. I haven't seen it yet, but I am going to watch it. But that movie was such a surprise. I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it. Also, with this year, I signed up for Shudder, so I had a lot of the Shudder originals now available to me that I didn't have before. And my least favorite movie might be a little controversial. I'm going with Barbarian. I thought that was way overhyped for what it was. And I just don't think I enjoyed it as much as what the general audiences enjoyed it. Not to say that it's a bad movie. It was just something that it didn't do it for me. So
But
As
how
soon
about
as
that
you
drink?
said Barbarian, hold please. As soon as she said Barbarian, her little spirity shit jumped off the table.
Right.
Everybody saw that, right? just
my sparkly ball.
just like, holy shit. Is there
I
ghosties?
tried so hard to ignore that too, because I felt that thing hit the floor and it's near my foot now. And so great. Now I have ghosts.
Ghosts.
Mama, just move the bell. Just move the ball. She didn't like your opinion.
That's fine. I didn't ask
She
her.
thought Cousin Mom was cool in that movie. Smash the head, smash the head.
Head smash.
For me, I'm a curmudgeon-y fuck when it comes to horror films. Like, my wheelhouse is 80s slasher films.
Can
Like
confirm.
that is absolutely my comfort zone in terms of movie consumption. If it were up to me, we would review Maniac every week of the show.
Nice.
Or some semblance of a Nightmare on Elm Street film or something to that effect. But as Sarah illustrated, with this show, I found myself getting out of my comfort zone. And, when I was doing podcasts before this, it was really just me. It was me on my own talking about whatever movie I wanted to discuss. And
Real quick,
so,
were you also the editor?
yes, I was. I had all of the power. Lots of things ended up on the cutting room floor, let me assure you.
I want to know what that cutting room floor looked like.
Mm,
You
it was
bully.
full of bullying. It was full of
This
bullying.
joke is never gonna die, and I love it.
It certainly won't. Not at least for the next year, which is a couple of days. So,
Sorry, if you're new here, by the way, we thrive on inside jokes. If you don't get it, we really don't care. But anyway, continue.
and bullying and being
And bullying.
elitist.
Elitas.
But
It makes us elitist.
yeah, that's right.
Elitas. We are Elitas. Configuration. Note to Aaron, can you put an echo effect on that configuration, please?
Yeah.
Put 42
But
echoes.
only mine.
Focus.
So I had a hard time really getting out of that comfort zone when I was doing the show on my own. But meeting you guys, meeting all three of you, and having 4 different personalities on the show really challenged me in a way that I wasn't expecting it to. I figured, I've done this for a long fucking time. I'm just gonna do what I do and go into coast mode, like put it in autopilot and, be fucking zany or whatever the fuck. And a fun thing happened on the way to this episode. I was confronted with things that I'm not used to consuming. And so like Black Phone, for example, is not a movie that I would go out of my way to see. And I fucking loved it. Like I fucking loved that movie. And it's not my favorite movie of the year. This year there were so many great fucking horror films that it's hard to just narrow it down to one. But if I were to say what my favorite movie of the year is, I'm gonna go Terrifier 2 as well. It just it hits all of the little things that kind of cater to my personality in a way that none of the other films did. And this is a year where The Sadness was released. This is a year where X was released. This is a year where there's a plethora of movies that are just fantastical and large in scope, like a Nope. Nope, it has huge scope, but it's also one of those divisive fucking films where it just it challenges the audience to give a shit. which is interesting, because if you can get over the hurdle of not giving a shit about it, there's something really good about that movie. The same could be said for Glorious. The same could be said for the movie that we're discussing today, Smile. There's just this weird thing that I feel filmmakers are doing now, where they're not going with the tried and trues. They're trying to tell something that's a much more flushed out story, and they're using horror as the catalyst to get to those things. But in reality, most of the films could be argued, that's not horror. And that's an argument that I hear all the time. Oh, that's not horror. And it's a relatively, I'd say in the last like maybe 10 years, that's been a very common complaint with a lot of the horror films that have been released. I just think that Terrifier is so blatantly a horror film that it's hard to deny it. So my favorite for the year was Terrifier. My least favorite was also Halloween Kills. And here's the thing. I've watched Halloween Kills like 8 times since it's come out. You know, Peacock made that possible to really kind of hate fuck a movie. No, you know what? That's not my least favorite. My least favorite is the Munsters. I hated that movie so much I forgot about it. And that could be construed as not horror, but it's got horrific elements. And it's a Rob Zombie movie. It's got vampires and werewolves and Frankenstein's monster and all these things, but it's also like a romantic comedy. And it tonally just doesn't work for me. I thought that the characters and their motivations all seemed forced, and there was no stakes in it. I'm a vegetarian, but I still need stakes in my movies. You know what I'm saying? I need there to be something that happens. The story has to progress from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, and there's no progression. It's just set pieces that kind of lead us down this path, and it goes nowhere. It's like the Beverly Hillbillies, but with monsters. And so, yeah, that's my least favorite, is the Munsters.
I'm gonna change my favorite answer to the Munsters just to be a contrarian. I loved it though. I loved it.
This got a little heady because we didn't have anything in Arlie's drink for today. There was nothing in his glass. But before we get into the MDibles, we're going to toss it over to our good friend Living Dead Delilah for her To Be Terror recommendation for the week.
Little bunny hoop hoop hop into the forest, scooping up those field mice and bopping them on the head. My little ghoulies, is it that time already for Aunt Living Dead Delilah's To Be horror movie recommendation? I gotta think about this. Oh, speaking of our furry little friends we like to beep boop on the head, Furry Nights from 2016. It's about a group of friends that decide to go camping and they're gonna party. I love to party. Anyways, so they're there, they get all of their stuff set up when all of a sudden they see a bear. They shoot the bear. It goes down into the ravine. But unfortunately, it wasn't a bear. It was a furry. And that furry's friends, it found him. And they were really, really mad. So they decided, you know what? We're going to get some sick and twisted revenge on all of these campers that shot our friend. It's a fun movie to watch, and I hope you all enjoy it. As always, Aunt Living Dead Delilah thinks you're the coolest.
Boy, I love that Living Dead Delilah. Isn't she great?
She's the best.
She's fine.
She's so fun. And if you ever really get to talk to her, not just like watch her on the Tickum Talks at Living Dead Delilah, you realize how fucking funny she is. Like, she says some weird shit, dude.
She's funny as hell. She's smart as hell. I love everything about it.
Yeah, same. And
I'm still trying to rationalize the whole car thing, but that's just me.
The what?
The car thing.
The
car thing. Mine was a good choice. That was a good choice.
You fucking Mopars. But Harley, can you toss us into the MDibles for Smile?
I got you. I really like this one. After witnessing a bizarre traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality.
Ew.
I thought that was
I
pretty
like that.
spot on.
Yeah, no, that's
that was
good.
Yeah, that was one of the
Who
better
wrote that?
edible. It doesn't have an author.
Hmm.
It's
Anonymous.
anonymous. Anonarabbit moose. Anonarabbit.
Anonymous moose.
That's
The name of my band.
That only covers 80s hair metal.
Absolutely. 100%.
So Smile is an expanding on a short film that the short film is, just the scene where the girl's talking to the therapist, and she's that whole scene in the beginning is the short film, and then it expands from that in this film. And I felt like Rose uh, really carries this movie. It's Sosie Bacon, right?
Yes.
Kevin Bacon and Kira
Kevin-
Sedgwick's daughter.
Yeah. Which you can tell.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else, like, the minute she came on the screen, I was like, oh, it's Kevin Bacon's daughter. Did you
See, I thought, oh, that's Kira Sedgwick's daughter.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
I thought. I
really?
said Kira
Yeah.
Sedgwick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because whenever she's kind of cocked at 3/4 angle, I
Mhm.
just see Kevin Bacon like right here, like right in the eyes, and in the they both have an intense way of expressing themselves, like with their eyes.
Hmm.
And did you guys watch They Them this year?
I did not.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
I did not.
I did not.
I think you said no go, and I was like, all right.
I mean, it wasn't. It was predictable, and it wasn't a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with everybody. As soon as you say, I may have not liked it, I probably just okay, and it's out of my head forever.
But so watching Smile and having watched They Them, you see similarities in their mannerisms that I was picking up on through the
Mhm.
movie, and I just thought that was just an interesting side note. It doesn't really impact my view of the movie or anything, but I was just like, oh, it's Kevin Bacon's girl, and
This is directed by Parker Finn. He wrote and directed. He also wrote and directed Laura Hasn't Slept, the short film that inspired this movie. So it's very much like Terrifier in that sense that it started with the kernel of an idea that was expanded on by the creator, and that's always interesting to me. Is I don't know if you guys have watched Laura Hasn't Slept, but that's a really creepy fucking short film that I thought was fucking solid. I actually caught it on TikTok of all places. And I was like, yo, well, let's give this a fucking watch. And I was like, all right, I want to see Smile now. Like that sold me on watching Smile. But the thing that I think works really well about this movie is its use of atmosphere. And the main brunt of what this story is it's about trauma and and trauma not being particularly relegated to horrific events. So the idea of trauma is that something happens to you and it leaves like a stain on your psyche, and that stain goes with you everywhere you go. It's like a bruise, and so it can be triggered by the weirdest of things. And obviously with this they go into fantastical places, and it's done with the idea of having like jump scares and shit like that. But the psychology behind the characters and the performances inside of the film, um, all harken back to trauma. And so the movie opens with the daughter finding her mother dead, and that informs who Rose becomes. She commits herself 100% to the point where the people that works with are like, wow, you logging a lot of hours, like she
Yeah, we're
feels
worried
this
about you. You've been working a ton.
she
So
feels this guilt for the part she had to play in her mother's death. And so she has this mentality that she constantly has to save or protect people from these things that you can't save or protect anybody from, because they're in here. They're not like, like if you break a window, you can replace a window, but something that's broken in your mind and in your spirit can never be replaced or fixed. It has to be mended by you internally. And so the journey that she's going on through the course of the film is confronting this thing that happened when she was a child. And I fucking love that about this movie. I don't know if you guys were kind of on that same wavelength. By all means.
I'm definitely on that same wavelength. And it's funny, the 2020s have been a lot of trauma and mothers.
Yes.
And that's
yes,
been a common theme in a lot of these movies, which, I'm curious as to how many of these creatives were raised in single mother households. And because as artists, you tend to create what you know. Sometimes you go outside that box, but you know the best stories that you tell are the things that you've experienced and whatnot. And uh, so, like going back to, well, I mean, just this year we had Barbarian, which was a maternally there's a maternal undertone of that movie. Um, and while X is not maternal, more paternal, and that the character is running away from a repressive religious family, and the trauma that the emotional trauma that she experienced through that. Uh, I lost my train of thought completely. But
I would even go as far as to say like the generational trauma of the dark and the wicked as well. Because to your point with X being paternal, this it's not exclusive to moms, but man, moms are getting a hell of a rep for for horror as far as the last couple of years.
I'm calling
Hereditary,
it the Ari Aster effect, honestly, because I
yeah,
feel like a lot of this stuff kind of spurned out of the success of Hereditary. Hereditary was a film that got a lot of people's attention, and it made it okay to talk about the horrific elements of the family dynamic. And you see a lot more of it coming out after the release of Hereditary. So there's something to be said about that being kind of an untapped avenue to take psychosis, even though it's the most tried and true, avenue. Uh,
Also, real quick, I'd like to add something as well, and I kind of just thought of this, so help me flesh this one out if you can.
hmm
We're in the year 2022. Most Gen Xers and elder millennials and millennials, we're all getting close to 40, over 40, into our 50s. A lot of these people are we're now seeing as we get older the trauma that was some of our childhood, and it's now it's finally being highlighted in film that maybe not everything was as, Norman Rockwell as some people remember.
Mm-hmm.
And some people might say, oh, back when I was a kid, we were just tough asses and took it, and whatever the case may be. What's refreshing to me about seeing a movie about trauma so deep is that you realize again, and this may sound like a cheesy, cornball thing, but you're not alone. People do go through trauma, and it's not just you, it's everyone. Everyone experiences some sort of trauma throughout their life. And I think this film kind of highlights it right from the get-go of, we know, as soon as you see that this girl finds her mother, you're like, okay, we know what we're in for. This is going to be a tough one to get through.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to add, in the 70s and 90s, you had a lot of absent parent characters in those movies. These were teens facing the monsters pretty much on their own. I mean, so one could argue that Dr. Loomis was kind of a father figure for both Laurie and for Jamie
Mm-hmm.
during those movies. But aside from that, like, the adults and the parents were just kind of, they were cardboard cutouts just thrown in the background. The Nightmare series, how often do we actually get a legitimate parent outside of like Nightmare 1 and 2?
Well, Nightmare 4.
Oh yeah, okay, Nightmare 4. But the 80s and 90s, 90s had all these teen flicks that,
Yeah.
No parents.
These teens were just
They were just
feral.
they were. And now we're getting to that point where we're finding that some of our monsters, some of our demons, some of our villains are the ones that raised us. And that's a very interesting phenomenon. And I would agree with Larry. Like, after Hereditary, we're starting to see that more. I'm enjoying it personally. I like it. And
I find that, the stuff that's kind of more grounded in reality, that's kind of your baseline where you start, allows for people to have an in with the journey that they're going to go on. If there's a kernel of something that somebody can attach themselves to, it allows them to go on that journey. And there's, especially like with 80s horror, it was more just kind of like, let's get this shit out of the way, let's introduce people as quickly as humanly possible, and then let's get into the killing. And the films that are coming out right now, they're doing kind of the opposite, the inverse of that. They're building these platforms to launch off, so they're definitely more slow burn. And slow burn has a double-edged sword quality to it, because you can have a gratifying experience if you can get through that point. And certain audiences will go on that journey, but there's a good portion of the audience that will not want to go on that journey and will want to just get straight to the violence. And it's a conditioning thing. And so it's one of those things where, when you get into stories like that, you have to kind of reprogram your brain in a way that's saying, no, this is the way that films are now. And it's very 70s in its approach. The films of the 70s, it had to rely on the building blocks. So you think of films like The Exorcist specifically, you need all of that lead up for that latter half to be as effective as it is. they went away from that in the 80s in favor of violence, gore, uh, a spectacle, and
TNA.
TNA. Because again, you're marketing to a teenage audience. You're marketing to a younger, skewing audience with these films, and the mindset is that you know they have a shorter attention span, so they're not going to be as interested in this developing story. The Shining is another perfect example of something that builds and it ascends to a point of terror. There's subtleties that exist throughout the film to allow you to understand, hey, you're a part of a horrific experience, but it doesn't just out and out say, ooh, it's scary time. And I feel like in the early 2000s to like 2010s, they were overly reliant on jump scares to allow people to recognize, hey, you're in a horror movie. And
Hey, looking at you, Blumhouse. Looking at you,
I,
Blumhouse.
I was gonna say, looking at you, Scream,
because
jump scares and CGI too. Like
Yeah.
CGI became like an overpowering thing in movies in general for the longest time, and it got to a point where it was almost damn near laughable. Where they would use it as opposed to
toy.
how they would use it. Yeah.
Yeah, new toy.
Gonna play with this toy until I get bored with it, and then
and this is kind of off topic, but it kind of ties into this, like the use of CGI. There is CGI in this movie, obviously, and then there are times that it's used effectively, and there are times it's, like Sarah said, it's laughable and almost comical.
Looking at you, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing looking at you, It Chapter 2.
Correct. All the
I don't know. I don't know if anyone else got that vibe.
I fucking have tried to watch the second chapter of It so many times, and I just can't. I just can't give a shit.
Oh, but you have to watch Weepy Potato Pennywise.
Weepy potato deflated bobbleheaded Pennywise.
Oh no. Shit.
I love
you didn't put a spider in it, did you?
The opening of It Chapter 2 is straight from the beginning of the book, which I was like, okay, let's fucking go. And then the movie starts. It's like, what is this horse shit?
Damn it.
I think a lot of movies do, like, really don't, like, when it comes, sorry, just we're going to go off of beaten paths every once in a while, but like, I didn't give a shit. I did not care. Like, everybody around me was like, oh, this is badass, it's amazing. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. I just don't. And then you start watching it and I'm like, oh, I care less. So nice.
So kind of going back to this movie and CGI, in that moment, did it take anyone else out of the story a little bit?
Which moment?
Yeah.
The end.
The end?
Yeah.
Oh no, I loved that.
So
I felt like that was earned at that point.
I loved it, but
go ahead. Yeah.
There was my point where mine was whenever she stabs the guy, and that was CGI. And I was like, I'm watching the wounds move and whatnot a little bit, and I was like, what? what is happening here?
So I will say this, and this is something that Rob Zombie has done in some of his movies. When you do CGI stabs and blood, like, you're ruining it for me. Just set up some squibs, get a knife with a retractable blade, and just like go ham and have some fun. And you're right. And when she starts poking the dude, I was just like,
It was slow too. Like, it was like, she was like, ugh. And I was like, oh. And then she's like, and I'm like, oh.
Was anybody else thrown off by Cal Penn being in this movie?
No, not at all. Oh my God, I love him. I love it. I thought he was perfect for that role in a weird way. Like it. So that's what his character and not Dude, Where's My Car, but Harold and Kumar
Harold and
go
Kumar.
to White
Yeah.
Castle. That's what his character was supposed to end up as. So
Yeah.
I'm almost like, oh, this works. This works. Like you got over your White Castle, you got over your weed, and you put your head to the books. You got out of Guantanamo. Good for you. and, and so like I don't want to sound bad, but like he fit that role so well, and like the way he speaks and his presentation in this movie was very doctorly.
And it was dry, very dry.
Yeah, very dry. But I liked it.
But it worked.
It worked. It worked really well. And
I loved him ripping his face off.
Oh,
that was so good.
That was fun. It's CGI, but still fun.
I thought that was an effective use of CGI.
It was.
Neither here nor there.
But there are moments in this movie where the CGI does work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I don't think at the end the reveal with the multiple mouths,
jaws and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I think practically it could have worked, but it would have been a lot tougher. And so that, again, it was another appropriate use.
That means it's not very practical, right? I'm just
right. No, I know. We've had this conversation.
Yes.
The term practical. Yeah,
I hate it so bad.
I know. We need a new word.
Special makeup effects.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But I thought that worked really well, and I actually enjoyed that a lot. Like,
yeah,
I was like, if you're gonna do something like this, that's the way you do it. Like that met my expectations. I was pleasantly surprised and pleased with.
So
that.
My thing, and this is me getting on my soapbox for a second. I gotta adjust my butt to do this. The reason that special makeup effects work as effectively as they do is because they're so hard to accomplish. So the way that you shoot it is different than the way that you would shoot CGI. And you look at like a movie like Jaws or An American Werewolf in London. You know, those things are tangible creatures that exist inside of the frame. So you have to shoot them a different way than you would shoot CGI. With CGI, you just shoot the screen and you allow the computer graphics to just kind of exist. And it takes some tension of the editing away. And so, you know, when the creature is revealed in this, there's no frame cutaways. There's no, like, the pacing of the cuts don't match the tension that it's supposed to evoke. And so it leaves you kind of in the lurch in terms of the way that you're consuming this moment. This moment doesn't have any breathe to it. It happens. And had it been done with special makeup effects, they would have had to shoot it in a different way. They would have had to cut away to reactions and you know, little pieces, because you can't do that full thing. Like think about The Thing. The reveals of the creatures in The Thing were all done in cuts. It was, you know, cutting to allow different pieces of movement to happen, which ultimately builds on the tension of the overall moment. And with CGI, you just it's like, and so there's like this visual vomit instead of, you know, this evolution. And that's always why I say, yeah, you're going to spend a little bit more money to do it that way, but it's going to have a much more lasting effect. I still think that the creature looked impressive and phenomenal, and I loved the jaws, the multiple jaws, and that pulled away flesh and all of that stuff, and that's really heavy and rad. But I wish that there was a conscious effort to shoot it as if you had to shoot around things. It just, you can write in a script, a monster appears and you can move on, and it's like, a paragraph in a script. But when it translates to film, it becomes 3 minutes, because it's, the way that you have to shoot it, the way that you cut it. And that is the way that it's done with special makeup effects. When it's, CGI, it doesn't need that. The monster can just appear. Then it's a 3-second thing instead of a 3-minute thing. And it just, that's my soapbox. I'm getting off it. Back to you guys.
So, how about A-Train from The Boys?
Like,
What do we think about A-Train?
He's still on brand. He's still on brand. The moment where he's just like, I knew it. I did fucking research, and I knew you were gonna be a.
That was like one of the most fucked up parts of the movie, in my opinion. This is your fiance, and he's standing in the driveway, just pointing his finger at you, like, I knew it. I knew you were gonna be fucking nuts. Like, if that doesn't harken back on some relationships, I don't know what does.
I think we've all been there. I think we've all had that.
Yeah. That was like worse than saying you're just like your mother. Like,
that was,
which her sister said. Though, I mean, awesome. Sister was totally in the fucking right for saying it when she did. You brought a dead cat to my son's birthday.
Yeah. Can we talk about the birthday party?
Oh my god, fantastic! Like, I was sitting on the couch and I was like, "There's gonna be a dead cat in that box." Poor little kid, just birthday party. Oh my god.
Is that
I'm not crazy?
Cat?
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. I just brought a dead cat to my nephew's birthday. It's fine.
Well, we figured it out. The cat is dead. The cat is dead in the box.
I'm glad.
Science is closed on that one. We've answered it. Holy shit. That whole scene, like, that scene alone really helped this movie. And just imagine being in her position.
Right?
And you don't realize that you're going nuts. And then your insanity is put on display, not just for your close loved ones.
In front of everybody.
Kids and fucking other adults. And you're a psychiatrist on top of it.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful thing on top of it, really, is like, of all people, you should know that you're going crazy, but
right. That whole dynamic through the movie.
I loved her going backwards into that table too. Like that
was cool.
That was excellent. And she comes up with her arms and they're like, ah! I
will say, like, any of the shots throughout the entire movie where she is terrified, like she is absolutely scared, and she's going backwards. She goes backwards a lot. Like, I don't know if anybody else picked up on that, not just the table, but going over the couch and all that kind of stuff. She did such an amazing job of like portraying that in her body. Like, holy shit, like that's the best way I know how to say that.
It's the symbolism. It's symbolism for her journey. Like, go all back to your past. And
it's definitely too like that is the visual representation of fight or flight. and it was all flight. Like, no, I need to get out. I need to get away from this. And I don't, if I happen to bring a dead cat to my nephew's birthday party, I would also want to get out of that situation as fast as humanly possible. I don't know about you guys.
Well, I think in my family, they're just going to be like, Brian, Arlie, again, last time it was the goldfish. What's
It was
next?
a gift, you dick.
Taxidermy.
So hard on
Taxidermy.
this.
Oh, and I had a little reanimator.
Yes.
I wanted a little note.
Yeah.
Cat dead, details later.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
That's
where my brain is.
Also, you notice that she kept breaking glass.
Yeah. The dropping the glass, but yeah.
She dropped the glass on 2 separate occasions, then she goes through the glass table. And to me, that was kind of like saying that her psyche is being shattered.
Yeah.
And
her fiance said, "Did you break another glass? Did you break the glass again?" So it was like it wasn't a new thing either. Like,
yeah,
kind of gave you a little bit of background that
But you know what I liked about this is all that symbolism is very subtle.
Yes.
Like it makes sense within the context of the scene. And if you want to do that deep dive, you can. And you can think about it, reflect on it, and really take that to further lengths. Or you can choose not to, and it doesn't take you out of the story. It doesn't mess with the movie at all.
And you also can see trauma responses throughout the story. You know, she's turning to alcohol, she's turning to her ex, she's, trying to reconcile what's going on within herself by looking at it pragmatically as a therapist. And, the stuff that she has where she's talking to her psychiatrist, and she's trying to, identify herself, and her doctor says, don't self-analyze because it's not going to help you. Like, all of that stuff to me are different types of trauma responses. Denial, numbing, and running away. All of those things she does kind of throughout, and I feel like most of that stuff is done by design to represent this break in her consciousness it's like thin ice. The ice gets slightly shattered, and every time you step over it, you can hear the cracks. You can hear it fracturing more and more. And her going through that table is when she goes through the ice, and she's under at that point.
That's the moment.
You would think, honestly, for a psychiatrist, psychologist, are we sure which one she was? I can't remember.
I'm gonna say psychiatrist.
Okay.
Yeah. Psychologist. I'm gonna say psychologist.
Okay.
She's not giving out meds. Yeah.
At one point in time, with all of this, going back to the self-analyzing and her therapist saying don't self-analyze, you would think for a psychologist that would probably be one of the worst things for you to do, like a doctor diagnosing themselves in some way, shape, or like, you're so into that career, like you may not be able to take a step back and see the things. You would just be like one of your patients that probably doesn't want to accept. And I felt like that was very prevalent with what she was trying to figure out. But it's just one of those things that you're too close to this situation. Back away. Do not WebMD yourself. You should have died in 2007 of cancer. That's we've all figured that out.
And the monster itself, the trauma entity. Lots of people are calling it Smile, or Smiley. That's
a stupid name for it.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I think it's better being nameless. I think it serves that thing much more by not associating a name with it. And the idea that the trauma has to be shared in order for it to continue to thrive is really fucking interesting. Go ahead. I see that light go off in your brain. Go, go, go.
The fact that trauma needs to be shared is kind of problematic for me, because that to me is like that means, what that says to me is history just needs to keep repeating itself, and you can't break from that trauma, and you have to share that trauma with future generations, other people, friends, family, all that jazz. To me, one of the things that I didn't like about this movie is that, as far as any kind of messaging is concerned for mental health and trauma, there was no break. There was no light at the end of the tunnel by confronting your trauma and trying to go back and heal said trauma. As much as I actually I love not great endings, not happy endings, this one to me, because it was so deep seated in past trauma, it sucked me in a little bit because of things that I've gone through in my life. And we get to the end of the movie and it didn't work out so well for her. And what the hell did she go through this for then? And so it was to me, that was one of the disappointing parts of this movie.
Well, I also feel like in a sense she thought that she was facing it, but she didn't necessarily face it. She did exactly what she did when she was a kid. She walked away from it. She allowed it to die. So she didn't really do anything. She didn't confront or accept or make peace with it. She fought it. Just like she's been fighting it her whole life. So she never really defeated it because she never really confronted it. She had a confrontation, but it wasn't confronting it. She was trying to destroy it rather than
she did not take accountability for
yes
for her involvement in her own trauma.
Mhm.
And kind of going back to sharing trauma, that seems to be like the trendy thing to do now on social media, or when someone takes your trauma and shares it for you in a shirtless video. Anyways, sorry. I'm not over that.
We digress.
I digress.
But you know,
that's the thing people do now, is they share their trauma. They overly share their trauma, and I'm not saying that they're making themselves victims. Some people do, some people do not. But we overly share our trauma, and we're like, "Hey, this is what we've been through." Okay, great. Now what? Now
yeah.
what? Well, that's my trauma. Okay, what's the next
Okay,
step?
well, what have you done after that? Like, what have you done
Right.
in any way, shape, or form?
I'm gonna leave that trauma in the past. It's over. It's over. But it lingers. Trauma lingers. I believe that we never truly heal from trauma.
And it comes back to bite you in the ass in the most inopportune ways, or in the weirdest ways as well, if you don't try to reconcile in some way, shape, or form with it.
Now here's my theory. Living with the entity, coping, and learning to live with your trauma, and saying, look, this is just a part of me now.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like it, but it's a part of who I am, and it's a part of me. How do I go day by day carrying this trauma, but not letting it become who I am?
It doesn't define you.
Right.
What you do to get through that trauma, your past is in your past, and I'm not trying to downgrade that in any way, shape, or form, people who do have traumatic pasts. But it should not be that monkey on your back forever. It is a part of you. It helped shape you, but what did it shape you into?
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I think the ending is interesting, and Larry brought up a really great point. She confronts it, but then she pulls a Nancy. I turn my back on you.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of, and obviously a nightmare that didn't help,
Didn't work there either.
Didn't work there either. This is the same. This is the Nightmare on Elm Street ending, where
Mhm.
it's like you can turn your back and you think you've won,
But it's still
but
there.
it's still there.
Yeah.
And it got you. It gets you.
Speaking of this movie reminding you of other movies, does anybody else pick up any other horror movies out of this one? Because I got a specific one in mind.
Please tell us.
Oh yeah, it was a little over an hour in, and it became The Ring. It's an exact
Yes.
replica of The Ring.
Yes.
I'm stupid. I did not make that connection until just now.
She's most of the victims only last about 7 days.
7 days.
She becomes a detective and trying to figure out this curse and how to get rid of it and all that kind of stuff. Even goes as far as to go after and interview somebody who's been through it, kind of like Samara's dad. Like there were so many parallels to The Ring at some point in time, and I'm not even gonna lie about it. I kind of sat there and I was like, I've seen this movie before. Like, and that's where you kind of lose me. When it was so close, of course we're gonna have horror movies that repeat themselves, or you're gonna have scenes kind of like inspired by other scenes in movies. I can completely understand that, and I can look away from that. But the second act of this movie was The Ring, all the way through and through. And then we got into weird Drop Dead Fred territory.
The mega bitch killed herself with pills.
I'll take that a little bit. I'll take that one step farther. And The Ring and movies like this, In the Ring, go back to the Wolfman, 1930s Wolfman.
Yeah.
I'm
and
bitten,
it
I'm
goes so that
cursed.
you have to share that curse. You have to pass on that curse, just like how you had to with The Ring. Like this is, as soon as I made that connection, I was like, well, boo.
So let's get into Ghoulies, because I feel like we could continue to talk about trauma for the next.
We could trauma dump another time.
Lifetime.
Yeah.
Lifetime.
Yeah, there's a lifetime of trauma that we could continue to dump on the audience to kind of try to push that off of us onto somebody else.
An
That's
8-hour
YouTube exclusive.
an 8-hour messenger call.
But Sarah, I feel like you're gonna come in the lowest. So what are your ghoulies for Smile?
Now, to be fair, thank you. I do feel like I need to rewatch this again and give it another shake. I feel like that's necessary. I may have been tired watching this. I may have been in a weird mood or just getting coffee.
If you shake it too much, you're playing it. Just
mind your damn business what I'm shaking. Anywho, so with that being said, I do need to give it a second chance. But my first impression of it is it's a 2 out of 5.
Damn. Arlie.
I'm not gonna give it a 2. I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm gonna go all the way to a 4.
Damn.
I'm gonna give it 4 ghoulies.
And I'm gonna come right in the middle of the two of you.
Are you?
And I'm going with 3 fucking ghoulies. I thought
Reverse Oreo.
Yes. Yes. I'm the monkey in the middle.
I did not say that.
Somebody get a hold of Sergeant Octopus. We need this animated somehow.
I really enjoyed this movie. I thought that it delved into places that a lot of films don't necessarily, and it made a character in the lead who's not particularly infallible. And I thought that the creature itself was unique in the sense that it is formless and shapeless, and it takes on whatever it is that exists inside of your own psyche to create your worst fears. It's very personalized to whoever that person is. I also noticed that every single person that was affected by this had some past trauma that was not the trauma of seeing somebody kill themselves. There, uh, each one of them had some awful thing happen to them when they were young, and we all have these horrific things that we've endured that kind of define and shape us as people. But there are tender spots, basically, and when confronted with some new horror, it ultimately leans back on that past trauma. And that is what I think works the most about this. I also liked the smiles that were worked into the film in random places, like um when you see the corpse under the sheet and the blood makes a smile under the neck, the smile on the coffee mug, Rose's mannerisms, her physicality in this are tremendous, and they convey this really unnerving element that really works for the film. And so I enjoyed it, but there's definitely holes in its game. um the CGI kind of throws you for a loop in certain places, and it's definitely not a perfect film. So 3 out of 5. And Arlie is now stuck in a smile. I'm really worried that he's going to hurt himself, and we're not going to be able to record another episode.
That hurts your face. That hurts.
What, to go, like, to try to smile is...
Yeah, just do that.
A lot of them did open mouth, too. Like, you don't have to...
Also, this is neither here nor there, but a lot of the times when you're going through something, you force a smile on your face so you're not questioned about what's wrong.
Right.
You're presenting this because you don't want people to see what's really underneath it, and the idea that the smile is a mask but it's not a real thing is very, very interesting. So there's lots of great ideas that exist in this film. I don't think all of them were executed perfectly, but I
that
thought
was one thing I did pick up on too, is the putting on a smile to get through the things, and to your point, it's a mask, and you could see how fake it was.
Yeah.
Why don't you smile more? Smile more. Smile more. Smile. Smile.
Immediately. Shit
Smile.
face.
Smile. Smile.
Don't fucking tell me to smile.
Hey, fellas, if you're listening or watching and you tell girls to smile, watch this movie. Like, maybe something will click. Maybe.
Doubt it.
I know it won't. It won't.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Tommy. Looking at you.
Yeah. But we're gonna get out of here. If you want to find out more about the show, you can do that in a couple of different ways. You can start by liking us on Facebook at Ghoul Kids Table. You could follow us on Twitter at Ghoul Kids Table. On Instagram, we're GKT Podcast. And on the Tickum Talks, we are Ghoul_Kids_Table. We're also available on YouTube. We've got a lot of stuff up there for your viewing enjoyment. If you don't want to just hear us, you want to see us, you can do that there. We've got Top Shelf Horror. We've got the history of horror. Sarah's got something in the works that I cannot wait to share with you guys. But then there's interviews. There's an interview with Casey Hartnett available right now for you to fucking watch or listen to.
And that's a fucking excellent interview.
I was going to let him say it so he could say how great it was.
Oh my God. So Y'all go back. I need you all, if you're listening right now, go back, watch that interview. That's a really fantastic interview. You get an inside peek into who this actress is, and that is refreshing. It's not one of your typical horror interviews where it's like, what was it like working with Art the Clown? This is a great interview, Larry. Tip of the hat.
Thank you.
Tip of
Thank
the
you.
fucking hat. So yes, y'all go listen to that interview right now.
And we're gonna have a shit ton more interviews available for you to enjoy in 2023. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us and watching us kind of grow from terrified to smile. We've done a lot of changing. We've lost a little weight, and we're ever changing, ever growing. And this isn't our final form. We will be back in 2023. We've got a lot of stuff, a lot of fun stuff in the works that we cannot wait to share with you. The Ghoulies will be happening at the beginning of the year. It was supposed to be an end of the year thing, but just the way that things work, sometimes that doesn't work. But it is still on the horizon, so definitely stay posted on all of our socials. You'll see that when that drops. Sarah, where can they find you in the world?
Well, you can find me on the Tickum Talks at Tragic Rar. And Arlie usually spells that for me. So if you want to
RAWR Cincinnati.
Perfect.
And Arlie, what about you, man?
Oh, you can find me on Tickum Talks. I'm at Arlie Grind.
That's
and
RLE.
GRIND. Configuration. But also, if you want to check out Top Shelf Horror, which is connected, produced, and made possible because of the Ghoul Kids, you can find me on Tickum Talks at Arlie, or just look up Top Shelf Horror. And
He's also on Instagram.
I'm on
at
Instagram.
Top
too.
Shelf Horror, and on Facebook now. He's got a Facebook page dedicated to Top Shelf Horror. So, if you are an alcoholic, like most of us are, if that is
Join us.
if that is your coping technique,
You
definitely.
can't see it, but there's lots of bottles. There's lots of bottles that are going to be consumed. So many bottles.
But that is going to do it for us, you guys. Again, thank you so much for listening, for your kind words and your encouragement. It has not gone unnoticed to everybody that's been really fucking cool. Like Jenny, for example, fucking super supportive. Everybody, though. Thank you so much. We could not have gotten to where we are without you guys, and we hope you tell your friends so we can continue to grow. But that is going to do it for us for the year. So for Tragic Rar, for Arlie Grind, and for myself, again, my name is Chunky. This has been another episode of the Ghoul Kids Table podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on YouTube. There's always a seat waiting for you at the table, I guess. You can't fucking sit with
and
us.
you know what? Just a happy new year too. Whatever.
Yeah. Be safe this year. For the
Absolutely.
rest of the year, be safe. If you're gonna drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive.
And if you're gonna
there's a
drink,
lot of that
don't
that's
drink
gonna
and
be
drive.
happening.
Drink responsibly. Also, check out Top Shelf Horror for all of your New Year's Eve recipes. I'm just saying.
Oh, there will be a New Year's evil drink. Just,
Yes!
just for everybody to enjoy. And I just wanted to say, smile.
we're fucking teenage kids, we just fucking get into shit because that's what you did.
I know where this is going. Go ahead.
We went into her room. And I found the biggest dildo I've ever fucking seen. It had hair on it and shit. Like, not like hair, like fake pubic hair at the base. It was like random fucking hairs on the shaft.
Ew.
Ew.
It was used and put away and not washed. That's exactly what that was. Picked up all the fuzzies in the room.
It's like you're going and you're having fun and then my head itches. Ew. Ew.
Wow.
Scratch up here. I got some dandruff going on. Switch hands.
Fucking good.
All right. Are we ready to get into
I think with that fucking trauma.
bacon